Hi, I'm Bruce Eckel.
And I'm James Ward.
This is First Steps in Flex, and now we're going to look at graphics. So we were kind of serious and businesslike in the last chapter, and I'm ready to do something fun again.
Yeah.
And one of the funnest things to do, and you see this done in lots of different languages, and it's like, well, let's just make a draw program where you can just draw things around. I mean, Flex and Flash are all about visuals, so I assume this isn't going to be very hard.
Yeah, no, it won't be. Yeah, and so one of the interesting things here is that in Flash Player we have a drawing API. And the drawing API allows us to draw any kinds of shapes, lines, gradients, boxes, whatever.
And it's designed to be very fast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've worked with a bunch of different graphics packages, and sometimes they'll do some things well and not others. Right. They might be doing something really well and easy, but then it doesn't have the performance.
Yep. Yeah, and so the way that we use the drawing API in Flash, at the low level, there's a graphics API that we can send commands to. So we can say graphics draw a line, and then it uses a retained mode drawing, where what that means is that when we tell it to do something, it's going to keep that there. We don't have to tell it to draw that again. It will just keep it on screen. We have to go in and do something called graphics.clear in order to actually clear out the drawing commands.
Whereas with some graphics packages, you have to do a lot of extra paying attention to all those kinds of things.
Yeah, you may have to continually redraw something manually on your own. And so at the low level, we have this API. We can use it to draw things. Anytime you want to put something on screen in a Flex application, it's ultimately either using the graphics API to draw vectors on the screen, or it's using a bitmap API to bring bitmaps onto the screen. So those are the two ways that we can display anything on screen. All of the Flex components internally use the graphics API to actually draw themselves. So when you see a data grid, there's hundreds of vectors being drawn, for scroll bars and the labels up top with the drop down arrows when you sort. All those are being drawn at the low level using the Flash Player vector drawing API.
And since they knew that there was going to be so much stuff stacked on top of this, they had to make it optimally fast.
Yep. And in Flash Player 10, we don't go into it in the book, but in Flash Player 10, they even made a more optimized graphics API. It's a new graphics API that works even faster than the existing one. So in the next version of Flex 4, we'll be taking advantage of that as well. So let's dive in and actually build something using this graphics API. So come in and create a new project in Flex Builder, call it graphics. And so what we're going to create, as Bruce said, is just a very simple drawing program. And so there's a few things that we need when we create a drawing program. The first is that we need a variable to store the X position of the mouse and the Y position of the mouse. So we're going to just add a number, give it an ID, we'll call it prev X. That will hold our X position, and another number, give it an ID, we'll call it prev Y.
So this is basically like if I was writing ActionScript, I would just be declaring variables here.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. And all that is exactly, variable declaration. So now let's actually build our drawing API here. So to do that, I'm going to use the canvas.
But you could actually draw. I mean, I could if I wanted to, I could draw on a button.
You could draw on anything. Okay. Everything has a graphics property. Everything that's a UI component in Flex has a graphics property that you can use to draw with.
But a canvas is something that sounds like it's specifically designed for drawing on.
It's a container. One of the nice things that Canvas does for us is it takes care of sizing things correctly, and so that's why we're using it here. So I'm going to set the parameters here, width and height, 100%.
And that means the canvas will just fill whatever window you've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then inside of our canvas, we're going to add a mouse move event handler. So whenever we move the mouse around in this canvas, what we want to do is we want to draw something inside of this canvas. So to do that, what we're going to first do is check to make sure that the prev X is not a number. So we're going to say is not a number, and then prev X. The reason why we're doing this, the reason why we have to do this is that the first time we get this mouse move event, prevex is going to be not set yet because we're going to set it further down in code. And so this is going to avoid us getting a bug where we try to access a variable that hasn't been set yet.
And you don't just initialize it to 0 in your definition, because then you wouldn't know if it was a real number or an uninitialized.
Right. Yep.
I think you need curly braces.
Yes, I do. Okay. So now we're actually going to do our drawing. So the way that we use the graphics API is what I'm going to do is I'm going to call my canvas, and then it has a graphics property on it. This is how we access the Flash graphics API. What we're going to say is line style. So line style is where we set the line style that we're going to use when we draw. And so I'm going to set, first one is the thickness to 2 pixels, and then the color is going to be black, which is 0x0000. We can set other properties on this as well, but we'll just leave those to the defaults. And then let's set, let's call graphics.moveTo. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the kind of cursor, or move where we're going to begin drawing
or
from.
The pencil or the pen or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're going to move that to prev x, prev y.
So that becomes the starting position of this little line segment.
Exactly,
that we're drawing.
where the mouse cursor
to draw.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly. And then last thing we're going to do here is we're going to actually draw the line. So we do that using the line to. So this actually will draw the line to, and where we're going to draw it to is going to be where the mouse currently is. So we're going from the last time that this mouse move was called to the current place where the mouse is moved to. So we access those x and y positions through event.local x.
No, wait, I don't see the event variable defined anyplace.
Yeah, so what's happening here is that inherently, if you define an event listener in MXML, which is what we're doing here, this is a block of ActionScript code, which is actually getting wrapped into a function, into an anonymous function. And that anonymous function has a parameter on it called event. So this is kind of magical because it seems like event should be a property on application or something like that, the way that we're referencing it. But really, there's just a bit of magic here that passes in this event property to this event handler.
So basically, anytime an event happens, the event object, so an event occurs and the system, the magical system, creates an event object, and that's got all the information about the event, and it passes it into your handler.
Yep, which this code gets wrapped into a function, and the parameter on that function is an event, a variable named event of type event.
So if you were to write in an ActionScript, you would actually have an argument in your method. Exactly. But it makes sense that
in MXML it does it.
And this is one of the benefits of having an event-based system is that it says, okay, one of the things that's going to happen all the time and the whole system is built around it is events. So we're going to handle the creation and passing of those for you.
Exactly. So now we need to once we have drawn our line, we're then going to set our prevex equal to the event.local x and prev y equal to event.local y.
And
so
I noticed that that's also the else case, because if it is not a number, then it's not going to draw anything, because that would be drivel.
Yep.
But all it does is it sets the previous x and y,
exactly.
so that the next time happens, you have a starting point.
That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, so let's save it. That's all
it. That's the whole program for.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. And now.
Look at that.
Yep. Now we are drawing.
Okay, and so that's drawing all the time, whether the mouse is clicked or not.
Right.
So you could probably set it up so that if you push the mouse button down,
and we could just go in and add a boolean. ID equals do draw, and then we could add a mouse down listener, and on mouse down, then we could set do draw equals true, and we should probably actually initialize. It may probably actually initialize this to false anyways, and then we'll add in here that also check to make sure that that do draw is true. And
I don't think you need the extra parentheses there.
I might. Let's see. Yeah, I think I do. Maybe I don't. We'll try it.
Okay, try it both ways.
Yeah. And then mouse up. And we're going to set do draw equals false. And oh, okay. Good thing to point out here. So what happened was I put these ampersands here.
That's the bitwise and, isn't it?
What happened was it's interpreting these ands as the XML and, which is then looking for like and amp or and some escape character essentially.
So it thinks XML. You're trying to use XML in that case?
It does. And so in this case what we want is to add that C data black, which I took out back in, to tell the compiler that this is not XML. Don't try to interpret it as XML. So now that arrow will go.
That's a good example of why
so
that's necessary.
Try this one again. So now I'm moving the mouse, it's not drawing, but when I click and hold down on the mouse button, it begins drawing. When I let up, it stops drawing.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
And I could imagine the user could or the watcher could take this and do things like change the line colors. In
Absolutely.
fact,
we could add
have pop-up menus that would give you line color changes.
Exactly. There's a color picker component even in Flex that we could use.
It's all taken care of for you.
So if we want, it'd take a bit more code to hook it up, but here's the color picker, so we can come in and select the color. And it's just an out-of-the-box Flex component. So we could wire that up and pass that into the line style method there. We could draw shapes using others, like there's a draw circle and draw rectangle, or those sorts of different commands. So this is the most basic way to do drawing in Flash Player, the most low level way to do drawing in Flash Player. There is some higher level APIs to do this as well. So one of those is an open source project called Digrapha, where you actually use MXML to draw shapes and do gradients, and really under the covers, Digrapha is just calling these same drawing APIs, but it creates a much nicer API for actually doing the drawing. So Digrapha is a great way to do a much easier way of drawing shapes and gradients and those sorts of things on the screen.
Excellent. Looks like a lot of fun.
Absolutely.